how hard it was to get those rights that everyone else just takes for granted. It matters that we have someone who is fighting for a sane foreign policy that focuses on multilateral negotiation and diplomacy. Certainly with the understanding that, you know, if we need to use force, we have the ability to do that, but that we lead with trying to resolve problems without that. So all these things matter. And I know for a chamber, it matters to you too, that we have someone who understands that small business truly is the engine of our economy and the engine of employment, and how it's important that we do everything we can to foster small business growth, to foster growth on our main streets throughout this country, here in the 8th District, and make sure we're doing everything to grow the economy. You all probably know that in the last 45 years, real wages for the bottom 90% of the people in this country have been going down, while for the top 10% they've been going up. We've got to reverse that trend. We've got to expand employment, but we also have to make sure that wage growth is happening for the vast majority of people in this country. We do those things, and we'll have revenue to do a number of things we want to do, these investments that I'm talking about, and we'll make sure that we have much stronger communities. So that's why I'm running for the United States Congress. That's why I asked 3 weeks from today, and the polls will be closed at that point, by the way, for your support. Because it still matters, and we can still make a difference. And no matter how dated that may sound, it's absolutely true. And I would not be standing in front of you tonight if I didn't believe it. So with that, I'm happy to open the floor to any questions you might have.
Great. So we have a couple questions that we wanted to start with from the chamber.
Sure.
Jobs and the economy are always front and center in campaigns. What specifically would you do and have you done as a state representative to bring job growth and economic growth to our area?
Thank you. Great question. So as a state representative, representing the Yardley-Newtown area, Bucks County, and now Morrisville as well, I've been very active in trying to bring jobs into our area. We have worked with the Governor's Action Team, which is an organization that every governor's administration has here in Pennsylvania that really does work to try to bring businesses into the Commonwealth. And we have put together tax incentive packages, which has done exactly that. And so that's been something that I've felt very strongly about, and we've been successful in bringing businesses to relocate into both Lower Makefield Township and Newtown Township and Newtown Borough in my current State House district. I also did something that was not so much bringing jobs into the district, but I'm going to point this out because I think this is another example of how important it is for a legislator, whether at the state level or in the congressional level, to be a good and strong advocate for the community. You may recall back 6 years ago, the New Jersey legislature and Governor Christie at that time decided that they wanted to pass a new law requiring that all the public sector employees in New Jersey would actually have to live in the state of New Jersey. Now, we knew immediately in the 31st District, but also in Bucks County, more broadly in Montgomery County, and all the counties that are near the Garden State, that meant that thousands and thousands of families were going to be left with a choice of having to decide that they were either going to keep their job and move, and therefore have to sell their house, or they were going to keep their house, stay where they were, and therefore lose their job. Now think about that. This was 2010. The housing market was at the bottom. The job market was not good. And so these people were going to be put with this horrible, horrible choice. So I worked very hard over the course of 10 months. From the time this proposal was made to the time that bill was ultimately passed by the New Jersey legislature. And I lobbied them, and I went and testified in front of a committee in Trenton, believe it or not, and ultimately got them to agree to put a grandfather provision in that law that said that if you're currently working in New Jersey, this isn't going to apply to you. So we were able to save those jobs of all those families. And so I point that out because a lot of times we talk about jobs or frankly any other issue, being that kind of advocate is really important as well. Now, at the federal level, what can we and what should we do? A number of things, I think. Number one, I talked before about education. As a former teacher, many of you may know, I practiced law for about 10 years. After September 11th, I decided that I was going to switch careers to do more by way of public service. I went back to school at night, became a high school teacher, and I taught at Ben Salem High School. So I'm someone who believes very strongly in education. We need to invest in education. I think what we need to do is make sure that we are providing for young people today at the high school level who want to go on to college the means to be able to do that. What does that mean? Well, one, it means that we need to lower interest rates on student loans. Two, it means we need to do something about actually lowering the cost of higher education. And one of the things that Secretary Clinton has talked about is a block grant program to the states that would be used to incentivize the states to start pushing tuitions down at state institutions. And if that happens, ultimately, through the market, it will have an impact on private institutions as well. So we need to make college more accessible by way of the cost. We also need to have, I think, a very robust, what I call, workforce development program. By that I mean this. Starting in high school, we need to have a much better system that helps guide kids as they get through high school and then if they're going directly into the workforce, into a good job. Our guidance departments are historically underfunded and understaffed. We need to invest in that. We need to make sure that those departments have the wherewithal to identify kids, what are their strengths, what are their interests, and how can we then marry that with the jobs that are out there. The secondary point of this is we need to have the infrastructure to then take that next step. The good news here is that we have that in many places, including right here in Bucks County and in Montgomery County as well. And that is our community college system. Beyond, formal classroom education that the colleges offer, they also have done a great job partnering with the private sector in training for the jobs that those private sector companies have. So I think we've got to really work on that and invest in that to expand that across the United States so that we have this very, very strong job training and job conduit program for kids that are getting out of high school, but also for workers who are finding themselves displaced. And that displacement is happening not just because of globalization, but also because of technological advances. Think about in our lives alone, how many technological leaps and bounds there have been that change whole sectors of the economy. That's not going to stop, folks. That's here to stay. Unlike past revolutions like the Industrial Revolution, where over the course of a generation, people adjusted from an agrarian economy to an industrialized one, and then there was relative stability after that, we're not at that place. These technological changes are going to continue, which means there's a good chance that different sectors of the economy are going to continue to open up and some are going to close. And when that happens, we have to have a job training system in place that's nimble enough to help those workers who are being displaced. And it's got to be one that follows people potentially